picture. In 2017, Luke Soderling was selected as a survivalist on Discovery Channel's show The Wheel. With no experience other than camping, this master plumber survived alone for 60 minutes. No, 60 days. 60 days.
What?
6-0. Like,
that's a long time.
okay, but
yeah.
Where? In Target.
No.
In 6 different places in South America. All right, I would not last for 60
The premise of this show is very interesting.
minutes
Yeah,
in our backyard, probably.
No, it's true.
With ingenuity, hard work, and determination, he excelled in the wild, building complex shelters with the materials available, catching 142 fish, and killing a caiman with a machete. I asked at dinner time the kids. Well, Lucy knew that a caiman is like an alligator crocodile species. Killed one with a machete. His drive and determination in wilderness survival is only outpaced by the grit and determination he showed as he beat stage 3 thyroid cancer in 2013.
Whoa.
Pretty impressive. I have a little video that I want to share that'll give you a gist of what Luke's adventure was like. So let's hit that.
I take on the wheel to show the world and my kids that there's life after cancer, that you don't have to quit.
It's going to be a long 60 days. My strength is being resourceful, being able to make whatever I want, and Amazon is great for having a lot of resources. Not bad for a plumber. Look at the teeth on that fish. Ow! Ow! Something just reached up and bit me. Bug just bit me all over my legs. They itch like you wouldn't believe. There's an alligator there. Believe it or not, cooking larvae is an art. That's not good at all. Lots and lots of mussels. I changed my technique for throwing the net. I've been able to eat twice a day for the last 10 days. That's remarkable. Look at that, another one. I need a bigger frying pan. That's a really good meal. The daddy killed an alligator. Tastes like fish. Alright, it's the morning of day 60, and I get to go home. I'm so excited that I was able to last out here and survive on my own. There was never a time when I was going to push that button. I decided the only way I was ever going to see my family was through day 60. I want to show my boys what it took to persevere. I wanted to show them that it takes hard work to succeed, and that when you set your mind to something and when you set your goal, you never, ever give up. This is unbelievable. I beat cancer. I beat the wheel. Don't give up. Don't ever, ever give up. I defeated the wheel.
Luke Soderling, thank you so much for being with me. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, guys. It's exciting. I love to be able to share my story with you guys, and especially fellow crazy people who like these sort of shows.
Yes,
it's great.
Well,
it's fantastic.
I'm so impressed. There was the clip at the beginning of the video where you like got bit and you're like, ow, ow, ow. Like that would be me the entire time. Like, ow, ants, ow, ow. So what a great story. I just want to dive right in. I guess it was cool to have that video to give people kind of an idea if they haven't seen the show, like what the vibe was. But explain to us a little bit about the premise of the show and how you got to be a part of it.
Sure. So it was a very unique show. Discovery Channel has never done anything like this before, and they've actually never done anything since. It was one of the most expensive shows they've ever done. They had 6 people from average walks of life, right? So I was Luke the plumber. They had a fitness model. They had an ex-Marine. They had a wrestler, just all these different people. And they went and dropped us off in 6 different places around South America and left us there. They said, good luck. You're on your own. I had to find my own food, my own water, my own shelter with no resupply for 60 days. This is the shirt I got to wear. This is it, actually, right here. This is the shirt. I had one change of clothes. And believe it or not, this is all chance, but I realized when I was getting dressed to come over here that I'm actually wearing the same underwear that I wore for 60 days while I was on the show.
Wow.
I managed to keep those. My wife has tried to throw them away many times, but I've held on to them. They're a good pair of Duluth Trading Company underwear. You know,
there you
got
go.
a lot of life left in them. You know, so.
It does not surprise me that lasted.
Yeah,
The trip,
exactly.
right?
So the crazy thing about this was that they drop you off in these crazy places, right? The first place they sent me was the Amazon. And I knew that the whole challenge was 60 days, but I didn't know how long I would be in any location. I also didn't know I was going to South America until a week before I got there. So I had no ability to prepare. I had no idea what the 6 zones would be. So in the Amazon, I didn't know whether I should really build a big shelter there or not, how long I would be there. Anytime the wheel turns at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, this beacon goes off and the crew shows up and they say, you got 20 minutes, pack your stuff. So in the dark, I have no flashlight, I have campfire if I'm lucky. I'm trying to gather all of my stuff together, and then they haul me off to the next location. You drive all day and fly all day in private planes and private cars and back roads and get on back of a horse, and the horse swims across a river and they drag you off into the middle of nowhere. And then usually right around dark or sometimes after dark, they drop you off at the next spot. I have no idea where in the country I am. All I know is that I'm on my hands and knees in somewhere in Argentina in a forest trying to find something I can light on fire in the pitch black. I have no idea what's out there. And that's what you guys get to watch for your entertainment. So I hope you appreciate my suffering.
I can't even. Just like more questions. I don't even know where to begin. So how did you get to be on it? Like, why did you want to be on it? And like, did you have a death wish? Was there,
right.
Was there obviously there's some sort of application? They're like, we just need a plumber. They went through the phone book. We're like, we're looking for plumbers. Like, how did that happen?
They realized that plumbers would be the perfect survivalists, so they picked us up. No, the truth is that I signed up for a different show. It was called Top Shot. It was a shooting competition show on History Channel. I was doing a lot of that at the time. And I must have made the short list because after that show got canceled, they kept emailing me with other shows. And they'd say, what about this one? What about this one? None of them were really that interesting to me. But then this email came out and it said, survive in the wilderness for 60 days alone by yourself. And I thought, what's not to love? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? And so I emailed them back and said, I'm your guy. And then I went and told my wife what I'd done. And I said, is it okay? You know, we had 4 boys at the time. And I said, is it okay that I be gone for potentially 60 days, starving my butt off in the jungle? And she said, they'll never pick you. I'm like, thanks for that vote of confidence, your support. But, you know, the reality is that thousands and thousands of people sign up. Like probably 20 or 30,000 people sign up for these things. And I never thought I would make it on. You go through the casting process and they do a Skype interview or something and ask you all these questions. And then they say, okay, we'll talk to you later. And then you don't hear from them for a week. And then the next time they talk to you, they say, okay, you made it to the next level. And you go on for that. And there's these just stages and you never know if you made it on or not. And finally, the final stage was bringing 30 of us out to Los Angeles. Final casting. They locked us into hotel rooms. We couldn't leave. They literally pushed us in the door, took all our key cards and said, okay, we'll come and get you when we want you. And we were stuck there for 3 days. When they bring you out to somewhere else, they like stick you in a closet or in a corner as one of the other contestants goes behind you. You're not allowed to talk to anybody, or they go through all these tests, these psychological evaluations. You have to go in front of a panel of all these executives from Discovery Channel. And after that panel discussion with the executives, we were laughing and having a great time. I was like, I'm on. I made it. I just knew it, you know, and 10 o'clock at that night, they came into my room and said, all right, you're on the show. I was like, okay, I guess I have to do this now. When do you leave? And they said, 2 weeks.
Whoa.
And I didn't know where I was going in the world. Had no idea. And so I went home, tried to get some things in order, and then they sent me off. Sent me a plane ticket to South America, and that's the first time I knew that I was even going to South America.
Wow. So did you... Clearly, there had to be many, many waivers that you had to sign, I would imagine.
The paperwork.
It was like that thick. I have a lawyer friend that I sent it to, and he said, you're insane. I would never sign this.
They're not liable for anything that happens to you. Oh, my God.
I'm excited to watch. I haven't seen the series. I'm excited to. We just got Discovery Plus, so I'm excited to show the kids. But I'm curious, did you have anyone with you during it, or did you have like a handheld camera that you had to do all of the footage yourself, or how did that work?
Yeah, so it was unique in that it was kind of, if you ever watch Survivor Man, Les Stroud, where he films himself and does all that, right? That's what I had to do. So I had 3 cameras. I had 2 GoPros and a larger camera and a big tripod. And I had to haul around about a 40, 50-pound bag of camera gear, plus any gear I had, that they provided for us. And then when you're fishing, you're on a bank of a river, right? And you set up a couple cameras and you're fishing there. And you're like, now we want to move somewhere else. You start getting down the river too far, but then, the camera's too far away. Put everything down, go and get the cameras, set it back up again, make sure you're in frame, and then go back to your fishing and doing that. Everything you did, you had to do at least twice or 3 times. Because if you didn't film it, it didn't happen. And if, like, when I was going down in the video clip, you can see it's super dark, right? And all of a sudden you hear me go, oh no, and I back up away from there because an alligator charged out of the water at me while I was trying to get water. But if I hadn't set up my camera there before, just going down to dip my pot in the water, you wouldn't have got that shot.
Right.
And so every single thing you did, if you didn't film it, didn't happen. But there was a remote crew that followed at a distance. They would get the scenery shots. They were there a little bit during the day, off and on, and usually from a couple hundred yards away with large camera gear and stuff to zoom in. But mainly you get the scenery shots. 90% of what you see on the show was me filming myself. And they had the remote crew was because, it's really hard to film yourself when you're being eaten by a jaguar.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to miss that shot.
Right.
So, that's part of the reason they had
the money shot.
And I'm sure they took I don't know how they were like getting the footage from you so you wouldn't drop it all in the water or something, right? And lose it all?
Yeah, so I had a camera bag, and they would, when I would be gone or something, they'd leave a Ziploc baggie full of batteries and camera cards, and I'd be swapping them out, trying to keep track of what goes where, and put them in the right cases. And yeah, it was a lot of extra work. Not only did I have to survive out there, I had to film myself do it.
Well, that's the thing.
A lot of extra work.
Did they have to kind of drill that into you? Because I'm trying not to die here. I would forget about moving the camera or filming everything. So how did you stay in that mindset?
For me, I really wanted to document this for my kids. And so everything I was doing, there was one time when I was kind of having a hard time with that. And it was getting really tiring. I was tired of dragging this camera everywhere I had to go. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a fishing video for my kids. Aww. And so that's what I did that day is I showed them how you catch a fish, how you clean a fish, how you cook the fish, kind of went through the whole process and just trying to stay in that mindset. And, for me, this was a very unique experience for all 6 of us in that there was no money tied to this. They paid you to be out there just to cover your bills, but there was no $1 million at the end of this challenge. It was every person out there just for their own reason of what they wanted to prove, what they wanted to show. And as they said in the video, for me, this was to show that there's life after cancer. You don't have to quit. You don't give up. You keep fighting and keep moving forward. And that's what has been so rewarding after this is I've been able to go and share that story more. And I was in London a couple of years ago. I've been able to travel all over the country and be able to talk about how we never quit, we never give up, and you keep fighting and keep pushing on.
And you certainly believe you, right?
Yes.
Like when you hear this, you're like, okay, Luke, I won't, I don't want to now that I've heard your story. Right.
Well, Elle is not happy. She said, please say this was big money for being cast and crew. And then when you said no, she's like, no money. What the heck?
So if you feel bad, you could start a GoFundMe or something. I wouldn't complain.
Right.
But no. So it really, anybody will stay out there for money. And people do a lot of crazy things on TV for money. But it takes a very, very crazy person to stay out there for just your own, grit and determination.
Yeah.
And I'll have you know that there's a very fine line of crazy. You can't be too crazy and you can't be not crazy enough. So I am the perfect amount of crazy for reality TV.
93% maybe?
We
talk about 93% weird is the optimal amount of weird in our brand of Escape Adulthood. So I would assume you're kind of going for a similar percentage.
Yeah.
For the Adventureland.
Elle says intrinsic rewards are priceless. Luke prays.
Right.
So she says that.
Wow.
Okay, so what was killing the caiman with a machete the favorite part of the show for you? And if not, what was?
That was really cool. And it was really exciting because, so during my cancer treatment, I was not allowed to eat fish for a portion while they did the radioactive iodine treatment and this whole thing to eliminate iodine from your diet. So it was kind of ironic that when I get on the show, that's all I eat. And I was getting kind of tired of fish. And we're around day 30 or so, and I'm like, all I'm eating is these fish from this dirty mud hole every single day. And piranha I'm eating in the Amazon and all these bottom feeders, and I'm really getting tired of fish. And so I'm like, you know what? There's this caiman. She's about 8 feet long, and I named her Helga. I hope there's no Helgas here. I don't mean to offend anybody. But she was kind of like keeping me from getting to this pond a little bit. And I was like, you know what? No. Alligators taste like chicken, right? Everybody knows this. So I decided, all right, I'm going to go after this caiman. And so I fashioned a spear out of the straightest stick I could find. It was terribly crooked. Just horrible, horrible spear. And armed with that spear in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I headed off into the caiman pond. And there's lily pads all over and weeds, and all you can see are the tip of their nose and the top of their eyeballs, where they're kind of floating there. So all these caiman are sleeping, secure in the fact that no crazy white boy is going to come and stab them with a spear in the middle of the morning. And little did they know. So I'm wading around up to my knees in the water, looking for these things, trying to find them before they see me. And I first see my first victim. It's like a 6-foot caiman floating there, sleeping. And I approach it with my crooked spear, and my heart is just beating out of my chest. And I have a camera in one hand, I have one set up on the shore, and I grab this spear and I thrust it in the water with everything I had, and it bounces off the back of the caiman and skips off, and it goes and thrashes around, swims down into the deeper part of the water. Apparently, and I didn't know this because I'm from northern Minnesota, but when you stab an alligator with a pointy stick, they get really pissed off.
Wow, who knew?
Yeah, I know, right? So over and over, I was trying this, and it's like trying to stab a mossy rolling log in the water. You know, it's just impossible. Finally, I found one that thought he was hiding from me, and I switched gears and grabbed my machete, and I got as close as I could to him, and I hacked into the water, and I had my first caiman. I was like, I have breakfast. This is so fantastic. So I cut the tail off, which most of the meat was in, and roasted it over the fire, and ate it, and it tasted like fish.
Oh!
I was so disappointed. But, you know, it was one of the big lessons I learned out there is that you have to be thankful. You know, that was just so pivotal for me, was finding small things to be thankful for all the time. You know, when you focus on the negative things, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you focus on the positive things, they get bigger and bigger. But the great benefit of that is the bad things shrink. And so I just had to remind myself, you know what, you're thankful for this. And that was a huge lesson for me.
That's awesome.
Wow.
You're very eager to be part of the show, obviously very confident, even though, your wife wasn't confident you'd get picked. I assume she was confident you'd survive, I hope. But what did you learn about yourself in the experience?
I learned that I was a lot stronger than I thought I was. You know, and when I came back, it was really interesting for me to kind of look at how soft we are, you know, and I also learned that I knew a lot more than I thought. And I attribute that to many of the men in my life that invested in me when I was young. And they taught me things and took us fishing and hunting and, you know, camping and all these different things. My father and all these other godly men that I had in my life that really were a big part of that. And so when I got back, I said, you know what, I want to do that same thing. I want to do that for my boys. I want to be able to provide that opportunity for other boys out there. And so in the capacities that I've been able to, we've been trying to do that more and more.
That's awesome.
What a cool thing for those watching to be able to hear and maybe be inspired in a new way to say, man, I kind of have some people in my life I could pour into, I could share what I know, like you said, because that just keeps going, that just keeps giving, right?
That's
and
right.
Who knew that those people, if they would have known, you know, all the things they taught you as a kid, that you would be in a situation like you got yourself into.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's see. Corey wants to know what the button was about for if you wanted to bail. Did you have to carry it around like a temptation? I think that was mentioned in the video, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we were given this little spot device, little GPS beacon. And it's kind of funny. When you first give you introduction, there's two little doors on there, and you flip them open. They said, flip this one open if you're being eaten by a jaguar. And we'll be there within 45 minutes or so. They'll call the National Guard, and I'll be halfway through the digestive system of a jaguar in 45 minutes. And then they said, if you don't need emergency help and you want to tap out, push this button, and then we'll come and get you when we can. They said we can be there within 3 days for sure. That's why they gave us 3 days worth of rations, which was a cup of rice, a cup of beans, and a little bit of trail mix. Really, all of us ate more than that for dinner tonight. But that was just kind of in case they couldn't get to me, like a storm or a river washed out, roads or something like that. So they had that little device, and I could tap out using that. I had to carry it with me. On day one, I decided two things. I was not going to eat those rations, and I was never going to push that button. And I was ready to throw that thing in the Amazon River and get rid of it. But I had to carry it with me. The funny thing, though, is that around day 40, we're not allowed to talk to the crew that's out there and giving batteries and things like that. But at one point, I'm like holding this thing, and it has batteries. It's been 40 days. I don't know if these still work or not. And I just kind of held it up, and I tossed it to one of the crew members when he was getting close. And he went and put new batteries in it and, left it for me again, so I had it later on. I bought one of those when I got home. And I was like, that's really cool. I want one of those. So I bought it. Went on a trip. You know how long the batteries last on those? 3 days.
Oh.
For 37 days, I had a brick that did nothing.
What?
And that's what I had to do. I can just imagine I'd be like getting eaten by a jaguar and tapping this thing. Might as well be hitting him with it. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about guardian angels, but I'm like, how did that not happen? You were literally exposed to everything. And I did see in one of your videos, you did not use the rations.
Right? It was day 53. I finally started to eat them. I'm like, well, I got a week left. I might as well.
Yeah.
And I ate the little bit of trail mix that was in there, and there was some chocolate and a few craisins. Oh my goodness. It was the most amazing thing I've eaten in my life.
Oh man.
And then I had beef jerky that had been sitting in my boot in my pack for 2 months. And was that fantastic. Best beef jerky I've ever had in my life.
Classic boot beef jerky.
I bet his wife is the best cook ever.
Yeah, suddenly
no matter what.
Cooking improves.
Yeah.
Whoever does the cooking in your house, right? So what did it's almost like this is amazing to talk about, but you did beat cancer before that. What did that experience teach you going into this?
That was really interesting. And I started to, you learn lessons, right, along the way. And then because we're people, we're dumb, we forget them. And then all of a sudden it kind of life slaps you again. You have to learn it all over again. Well, that happened with this. And I learned when I was dealing with cancer, when I first got the diagnosis, I'm like, okay, cancer, they're going to have to probably do this and radiation and chemotherapy and all these different things. And I'm like, how am I going to deal with that? And this mountain was just getting huge, right? It was just overwhelming. And I had to focus and say, I have to do what I need to do today, right? Take it one day at a time. Today I need to go to work, right? Today I need to play with my kids. I need to do something with my wife, and keep that focus on the things we need to do now. When I got into the Amazon, I had this idea going into the show that I was going to take this thing on. I was going to be the guy that made it 60 days. There was nothing in the world that was going to stop me from being the guy that made it 60 days. Do you know how long that attitude lasted? 1 day. Mm-hmm. By the end of the first day, I realized there's absolutely no way that I could do this. It was impossible. I mean, who can survive out here for 60 days? And so I had to break it down again into 1 day at a time. And that was tested significantly. When I went into the wetlands, I was riding in on horseback. And when I went by this bush, I was swarmed by these little bugs, these little chiggers, these like a little microscopic tick. And they just swarmed my body all over. And I had to gather firewood and get a fire going as the sun was setting. And I'm trying to relax and kind of get a little rest. But these things are just all over me. I have no other change of clothes to sit. And so I couldn't even take things off and change or something like that. And all night long, those things ate me alive. And I paced back and forth. And I said, I will not quit. I'm not going to quit. I won't do it. I won't quit. And finally, that went on for 3 or 4 hours, and then the rain started to come. I pulled a little tiny tarp over my head, and I hugged my knees and huddled there on the ground as those things just continued to crawl over me. And I couldn't stand being in my own skin. You ever get like crazy legs or something? I had that all over my entire body. And that mantra of 1 day at a time went from 1 day at a time to 1 hour at a time. And then it went from 1 hour at a time to 1 minute at a time as I counted off the seconds and said, I will not quit. 2, 3, 4, 5. I will not quit. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That went on for about 5 hours until daybreak. And finally, the rain got let up and I was able to get out. And you saw the picture in the video. My legs were just covered with bites. I had them all over my body. I had thousands of bites. And that decision to succeed is not one that we make once. That's a decision that you make thousands and thousands of times. And that was so important to me, is that you take things 1 day at a time, 1 second at a time if you have to, and you break things down to small, manageable pieces. And really, there isn't much that we can't overcome.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't. I'm so impressed. It's such a cool story. So many lessons. I think like, oh, well, what do I have to learn from someone who did this completely outrageous experience that I will never do and can't relate to? And yet it's so I'm sure every single person watching can relate to something in their life that it's like, you got to take it day by day. You got to take it hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second sometimes. And that's super powerful.
We talk a lot with our tribe about the seasons, right, that people go through, whether it's illness or depression or just loss. So I think this is applicable. I'm sure in your speaking, you're connecting those dots for people all the time as far as, the different walks that people have and the journeys and challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing is that I can draw some analogies, right? And I'll talk about how we can be swarmed by the oppressions of life or work or those things. It's just like the ticks all over me, right? But the great thing is that every single time I give one of my talks, someone comes up to me with a new application that I never would have dreamed of. And just how it really meant something to them, And they've said, this is just like how I was dealing with this in my life. And that is the powerful thing about this, and really the thing that just keeps me coming back and wanting to be able to share the story with as many people as possible.
That's cool. Wow. Do you have any other another favorite? I'm sure you have a million, but like, is there another favorite lesson that you're talking to people who are not going to be dropped in the Amazon for 60 days, but something that they can relate to?
Yeah, people always ask me what the hardest zone was. And, I went from the wetlands, or from the Amazon to the wetlands, the bush plains. They dropped me off on the mountains, in Patagonia. They marooned me on an island in southern Chile. The only thing between me and Antarctica was ocean. That's how far south I was down there.
Oh, my gosh.
But the hardest zone was the tundra. And the tundra it broke me. It was day 39. And I came up to the tundra, and it's just this barren wasteland as far as you can see. And there's just nothing out there. There's nothing that'll support life. There's no water. There's nothing to build shelter with. And I remember just sitting there on the side of this tundra on this old dirt road, and they left me there, and I'm by myself. And I just started listing all the things that are going wrong. All the places that things that are wrong with this place. And I remember just sitting there and just being devastated and completely giving up. And my spirit was just completely crushed. And I remember thinking, I was like, you know what? I have something with me. And I read this when I go through my talks, but it's a note that my wife left for me. And it's one thing I read every single day. And she talks about how she believes in me, how she says, I know you can make it, and you're strong, and you're smart, and you're strong-willed, which is a really nice way of saying stubborn. And, just keep going and keep fighting. And I said, I can't sit here and do this. She believes in me. I can't quit. And so I stood up. That's all I could do. I said, and I remember saying out loud, I said, I'm not dead yet. I might die tomorrow, right? I need water, and there's no water out there. I won't make it more than a couple days without water, but I'm not dead yet, and I'm going to go that way. And I headed off into the middle of the tundra. Little did I know that that place was so hard that 2 people had to tap out there.
Oh, wow.
And I beat that tundra. Nobody had caught any fish in that tundra, but I found a small river out there, and I caught the first fish that anybody had caught in 43 days out there. I caught a total of I think it was 5 nice big trout while I was there. And then from there, they moved me onto the island. And the island was, as I said, marooned on this island in southern Chile, and the rain was pouring, and it would rain for days on end in 50-mile-an-hour winds. And I was stuck in my shelter for 3 days at a time. And I said, I'm not going to quit. I can keep going. And finally, I beat that island. And on day 60, the final thing I said when I was going home is that no matter how you set your mind, you set your goal, you never, ever give up. Don't give up. Don't ever, ever give up. And every single one of you here has gone through trials and difficulties in your life. Sure, you may not have had to stab a caiman with a pointy stick, right? Or eat larvae, the cream-filled kind that explode in your mouth when you bite into them. You might not have had to deal with those things, but you have your own types of challenges. And you've survived so many things in the past. So the greatest thing is to set up monuments and say, you know what? I survived this over here. What can't I do? And that was my attitude going into this. I survived stage 3 thyroid cancer. What can't I do? I can go and take this thing on. So every single time that you have a trial or a challenge and you overcome that, set that up as a monument, something that you remember, that you can look back at and say, I know I can beat this challenge because I beat that one before. And every single one of you are the survivors. That's the great thing, is that we've all, in our own way, survived so much.
That's awesome.
Oh, Kara took the words out of my mouth. I set up monuments. I love that. That is such a very concrete thing for us who like those tangible, like what can I do? Especially, I mean, every single person here survived March of 2020, April 2020,
Exactly.
May of 2020. Those were really dark months for many, many people. And so that's a monument, right? That we can all put up to be able to say, we got through that. We can get through anything, right?
Yeah. Elle wants to know, you said 2 people tapped out in the tundra. She wants to know, how well did the other 5 people do?
Good question.
So you have to watch the show. Like I tell people, I die in the end. So sorry for spoiler alert there, but...
And then he
good line.
He comes back in the sequel.
That's so good. Oh, man.
They bring me back again, but no, 2 of us made it to the end.
Okay.
And the others weren't able to quite make it all the way. But each one of them has such an amazing story of how they went through. And, in one way, I kind of envy some of them because some of them came to their limit. They found their limit. They know exactly what it is. And the circumstances maybe were harder for them than they were for me in that same spot. And they came right up to that and pushed beyond that limit, right? And forced it a few extra days. Me, I never reached that limit quite, So it's very cool to have gone through something like that and see what you're really completely made of.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have a connection that will bond you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Even though it was so separate, which is really odd in a way.
Yeah, it was very separate. They got us together to start with. We met each other for about half an hour, and then they tore us apart and sent us off, and then they brought us back together. Those that had made it at the end. Unfortunately, none of that made the show. It was kind of a fun thing there, but that's a little behind the scenes for you that you won't get anywhere else. But after the show aired, we all went and took a trip to Jamaica.
Oh,
wow.
All got together and went down there, went to an all-inclusive resort and ate everything we could find. So it was fantastic.
That's
awesome.
Epic. Yeah. And then I also wonder, I mean, a lot of times on these reality shows, they'll have like a new show, and then it's like people from other reality shows. So it's like, are you on like a hot list for Discovery to be like, we got to have him back because he made it through. So, is that something you'd ever consider?
Well, possibly. There's been some shows I've talked with producers about, made it to a few interviews in. But the reality is that they're looking for fresh meat. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of those, they want somebody who hasn't been there before and kind of the unknown aspect of it. So when you kind of win, it kind of puts, you you get typecast as a winner, and they don't necessarily want that. So
There's
I'm all right with
drama
it.
Then
there.
you just get to be a speaker, and
which is pretty epic
yeah.
in and of
Yeah,
itself.
that's
different
right.
kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. I know everyone loved it.
And how can we watch the show for those of us who don't? Is it just on Discovery Plus, or are there other places?
You can get it on Discovery Plus. They have it for free on there. Also, it costs $11, but you can find it on Amazon, called The Wheel. Search for The Wheel TV show, and then you won't just get a whole bunch of wheels. Okay, because if you search on Amazon for wheels, you will get wheels. Okay, but The Wheel TV show. I must warn you, I spend an awful lot of time in my underwear. Okay, just as a heads up, kind of precaution there. My mother was so embarrassed after watching the show that she wouldn't go out into public for about 2 weeks. She said, "Didn't you have pants?" I said, "Well, yeah, but it was hot." It was
These
I
are
was gonna
really
say,
good underwear,
Hey,
too.
at least you were not
Yeah,
naked and
yeah.
afraid, you know?
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, you can check it out on there. Also, follow me on Instagram at Luke Soder there, and my website is lukesoderling.com. I have a few videos on there that I put out, a few other videos of my talks and presentations, so you can kind of check out some of those as well. Also, check me out on YouTube. I have over 10 million views on YouTube on some of my videos, so check those out, and love to be able to stay in touch with everybody.
And I know we hinted at this, but you are the dad of 5 boys. So if
Right.
that all that you just talked about is probably prepared you for that as well, because that is legit adventure
I will
every
not give
single
up.
day, right? I will
That's
not give
right.
up.
I will not give up.
quit.
I say
will
that
not
every
quit.
single day.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Luke. It's been a pleasure, and it's been an honor to have you on to share your experience. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we
You
can't
bet.
wait. We're gonna be tuning in. And we're queuing up this show like
Yep.
pronto.
There you go. You know that you've arrived in life when people binge watch you.
Yes, we are binge
Okay.
watching you, and then we're gonna stalk you on Instagram. So there you go.
And just a reminder that if you ever watch a survival show, you must be snacking while you
Okay.
watch a starve. That's a
Good to
rule.
know.
Craisins. Craisins
That's right.
and chocolate.
Craisins, fish, alligator, anything you can find.
All right, Luke.
This
Have
is
yourself
great.
a good night. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much.
guys. Thank you very
Take
much.
care. Thanks, Luke.
Bye.